At this time, I want to present to you our dinner chair for this event, Ambassador Andrew Young, who is serving as the chair of the 14th Annual Estelle Witherspoon Lifetime Achievement Award. And Ambassador Young will bring us his greetings, and we will ask that he give us the invocation so that we can eat.
I'll give the invocation first so y'all can start eating, because you started eating already. But from the writings of Paul Laurence Dunbar, a beautiful little poem. Lord, look down with tender mercy on such generous hearts as these. Make us truly thankful, amen. Pass the chicken, if you please. Only when Paul Laurence Dunbar wrote it, he said, pass the possum, if you please. But now y'all don't want to admit to eating possum, but that's all right. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I've been with you a long time. I was thinking about Randolph Blackwell, and I remember one day we came to SCLC's office, and there was a chain on the door. And I said, what happened? They said, well, Blackwell was digging wells, and he didn't have enough money to dig the wells for everybody that wanted to dig the wells, so he spent the money on the wells, and he didn't withhold the taxes. And now the Department of Labor or somebody has put a chain on SCLC's door. So I called Martin Luther King and I said, Dr. King, that crazy old Blackwell has done it again. He said, what did he do? I said, he dug too many wells for the money he had, and now they got the door chained up. He said, well, he did his job, now you do your job and find some money and get it open. And so from the very beginning, there's always been a relationship between this movement and the farm community. I feel like I've been blessed. I know I've been blessed. And I know you all have been blessed. I was telling Mrs. Sherrod that I slept with her husband before she did. Now, we ain't gay, but it was so crowded in there, and I got jammed in the middle trying to find room because they didn't have any hotels, and Charles Sherrod and Cordell Reagan put me in the middle. And then the bed pulled apart, and I fell down and slept on the floor. And that's how far back we go. That was 1961 in Albany, Georgia. But you know, I've been all over this Southland. And not long ago, I was down in Ludowici, Georgia, and I was looking at this brother, and I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a preacher. I said, but how can you afford a house like this? How many members you got? He said, we have about 100 with all the families. I said, they can't give you this kind of money. He said, well, my wife teaches school. I said, teachers don't make any money. You got a mansion. He said, well, we borrowed $40,000. And my brothers and my family built a house. And the only thing we paid for was plumbing and electricity. And I said, you know, this house on the south side of Atlanta would cost you $300,000. On the north side of Atlanta, it would cost you almost $1 million. And I said, you have 10 acres of land with a pond. Across the street, there's a golf course and tennis courts that are now integrated. I said, do you realize that only royalty live like this in the rest of the world? The president of Toyota couldn't play golf on a golf course like that across the street from his house. In Europe, you have to be royalty to go hunting. He had 10 acres of land. All he needed was a dog and a $16 license. I'm saying we got it good down here. And you can, don't cry pitiful to me. Because I've been all over the world, and I've been all over the world in almost every kind of capacity, and there's no place I would rather live than the southern rural areas of the United States of America. And it gets on my nerves when folks start having a pity party. Now, Hank was talking about hard times. Now, that was hard times that his mama was talking about. It's not hard times now. It's hard times up north. It's hard times in the Middle East. It's hard times in most places of the world, in Greece. But we got it good. But we're supposed to have it better. Because my Bible says, to them to whom much has been given, of them will much be required. I was in Marks, Mississippi last year, 2 years ago, and that was the place where Martin Luther King cried because people were so poor. And a young lady came out of the church, and I said, "How you doing, little sister? What are you doing with yourself?" And she said, "I'm a senior at Ole Miss." I said, "Huh?" I said, "What are you studying?" She said, "I'm a biochemistry major." And I said, "What are you going to do with it?" She said, "Well, people with biochemistry don't have any problems having jobs anywhere in the world, but I want to stay in Mississippi and it's a challenge." I'm saying that if you look at our schools, University of Georgia had a black student government president, so did University of Alabama. Ole Miss, I think one of them had a Miss Mississippi was black. I mean, this has changed. This is a new day. It's a new day for everybody but the farmer. And the farmer only needs a new crop. A farmer only needs access to capital. And when we get some new crops coming in here, and we're looking at things that we haven't looked at before, like aquaponics, and we're looking at things like duckweed, things that we've been taking for granted. But remember, we took the peanut for granted for how long? And peanuts pretty much were George Washington Carver changed the South. We have to change the South again because we have to bring our children back home. Those children in Ferguson don't belong there. They belong on their grandparents', great-grandparents' land. And if we have jobs here, and we brought jobs in, those jobs that came into Tuscaloosa and Overland LaGrange, we started that in Atlanta. We started bringing jobs into the South because that's the best place, the hardest workers, the best weather, even when it's hot. And since we got air conditioning and integration, ain't nobody got nothing to complain about. So I want to thank you for keeping strong, for going through many changes, toils, and snares by God's amazing grace. But when President Obama said that and sang that after his eulogy for the church in Charleston, somebody said that was an old Negro spiritual. That was not a Negro spiritual. Amazing Grace was written by a white slave trader. The slave trader whose ship was named Jesus. And suddenly, all of a sudden, the Spirit of Jesus got in him and he quit trading slaves and he wrote Amazing Grace. And Amazing Grace is what all of us live by. And it doesn't matter whether you're black, blue, green, or yellow, gay or straight, it's a God's amazing grace that will see us through. That means we don't need to be fighting over flags. We need to think about health insurance. The Affordable Care Act in Georgia would do more economically for Georgia than the Olympics did. And the Olympics really revived Atlanta. And we went from about 2 million people, now we got 6.5 million people. We know we got it right. We've got something good going on down here, and we need to preserve it. We need to pass it on, and we need to help our children find a way to economically secure it. And that's what we want to help you do, and Cornelius has been a great help. And before him, Ralph Page, and before him, Charles Prejean, and I can never forget Randolph Blackwell, just like I can't forget the sheriff without a gun. That's the spirit. Gilmore from Greene County, who was elected sheriff and never carried a gun, and he went into Klan meetings and anything else with no gun, and he kept order in Greene County nonviolently, even as a sheriff. So we have a wonderful heritage to live up to, and Shirley Sherrod has carried that, still carrying it. She and her husband are doing some things that we're going to be reading about for years to come, and we'll do everything we can to help you and them make this part of our world known for what it really is. Probably the best that God has ever made. And there are very few places, there's no place I'd rather live than right down here in the Deep South. God bless you. God has blessed you. And damn it, don't you forget it.
Thank you, Ambassador Young. And I want y'all to know, in the William McKinley Branch Courthouse in Utah, Greene County, we have a huge photo of Ambassador Young hanging there, along with Martin Luther King and Judge William McKinley Branch, the first black probate judge in this country.